everyone. Welcome to another episode of CBR Saga, Westview's favorite podcast. Wait, no, I'm sorry. I mean, Eastview's favorite podcast. There's no such thing as Westview. Anyways, today's discussion is all about the MCU's next big bad. And no, it's not gonna be another giant purple being from outer space. Sorry, Galactus fans. But rather, it's gonna be one of the Avengers' own. Is Wanda poised for a trip to the dark side? We say absolutely. Today, we'll talk about how Wanda's current circumstances are setting her up for an evil turn, what that means for the MCU going forward, and ultimately, why this is the best possible thing for the future of the MCU. It's going to be a big episode, so let's get right into it. I'm joined by my co-host, Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
Doing good, Jacoby. Thank you for having me once again.
Of course, anytime. So first and foremost, Nick, what are your thoughts about Wanda overall?
I actually really like Wanda. I like the character of Scarlet Witch from the comics in general, so I was really excited when she was going to be brought to the movies. I didn't think she had the best intro. I didn't think her and Quicksilver had the best intro in Age of Ultron. But I think what the MCU's done brilliantly is take a character who's basically been on the side and making her the most interesting character in the universe right now.
I think absolutely, especially for where we are with this start of Phase 4 in WandaVision. Wanda has definitely become front and center, and that's pretty amazing when you think about it, because I agree. I think I don't want to say mishandled, but kind of mishandled for like the first part, right? Because her powers have always been super ill-defined. I mean, like, what's that? Maria Hill just calls her weird, and like that's about the extent of what we get about how her powers operate. And even though she's been super important, I guess, going through like a lot of her movies. I mean, if you start with Age of Ultron, she gets the big hero moment at the end where she turns from the bad side to the good side. You know, she's basically the catalyst for Civil War, and now especially with and then she's the one who has to make the really tough sacrifice in Infinity War by killing Vision. I mean, like, for all these big character moments that she has, she's kind of been like still a very minor character. What do you think?
Yeah, no, you're right. In many ways, she's not really ever been the focus until now, obviously. And she, honestly, more than any other character, even Thor, like the only other one I was thinking of who might have been through more was maybe Thor, but she's lost so many people and she hasn't lost them all at the same time. So it's like she loses someone, but then she's like, at least I have this other person, loses that person. Okay, at least I found this new person, loses that person. She's been through a rough time. So to go through all those things, to be where she is mentally, is not something many people can relate to, but it's awesome because it means they can sort of go anywhere with it.
Right, because and to have that much, I guess, grief and trauma in your life is definitely traumatizing, right? I mean, like, it seems like every Avengers movie or movie that she's in, something bad is happening to her. I mean, like, again, if you pile up everything that happened, like before we even met her, she's already lost her parents. Then she's experimented on. She loses her brother, who is like her twin, right? And so it's like losing someone like that is devastating. She feels the guilt about causing an act that divides the Avengers apart. Then she finally finds love in this synthetic weapon, Vision, and then she has to kill him herself, only for her to watch as Thanos brings him back to life and then murders him in front of her. I mean, like, that adds up.
Yeah. It does. You even skipped a step in there where she saw her whole home country fall out of the sky.
I forgot that one, of course.
So, yeah, no, she's been through a rough time.
And that's why I think a turn to the dark side is logical. I mean, there's only so much a person can take before they finally say, hey, enough is enough. I'm going to do something else about this. And I think the MCU really presents an interesting opportunity by turning Wanda bad, because it's not just like a traditional villain who's just straight up evil, but it's a villain that has like a weight to it, like a reason behind it, and that you can kind of feel for and feel sympathetic for. It's like, yeah, when you look at her, you're just like, yeah, I wonder why she hasn't turned evil before, you know?
Totally. Well, the thing with heroes and villains is they're basically the same. They're with one difference. It's what they choose to do post-tragedy, because most heroes start out with a tragedy. That's why there's this trope of like, no hero's parents are safe, because you need some sort of tragedy to make this person make a choice. Whereas villains are sort of similar. If you look at someone like Zemo, he lost his family and chose to become a villain. So what's interesting with Wanda is she did sort of choose to become a villain. Granted, like it wasn't, her heart wasn't in it, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
When she like lost her parents and became powered along with her brother, she did choose to side with Ultron. But once she saw Ultron's true motives, she actually chose the good side. But you're right, it brings up such an interesting question of a hero who is chosen in the face of tragedy to do all these good things. But what does that hero do when even choosing to do good things doesn't pay off because you continue to experience all this tragedy? Like, what is her breaking point? I think we all have it. I think all of us would have hit it at this point if we were in Wanda's shoes. So I think it's only natural that eventually she says, hey, this hero gig isn't working. I keep losing people I love. I keep losing places I love. Things keep going wrong. Maybe I should try something different.
Exactly. And yeah, I'd say we all have that breaking point. I would have lost mine. Like her first instance of tragedy is like, yep, I'm turning evil. That's it. So I'm really impressed that she's gone this far. But that kind of sets us up for, we won't be talking too much about the events of WandaVision itself, but we can kind of discuss where she's going to be at the end of this. And I think it's going to be interesting. We can kind of theorize about how things are going to impact the rest of the MCU going forward. And I kind of always figure that WandaVision, a way for them to go in order to turn Wanda into like a bad guy and a villain is kind of her, I think there's two ways to go, I guess, first and foremost. It's like, one, at the end of WandaVision, she can be like, she embraces the dark side, right? Just like, this is my universe, that she says. It's like, and you can't take this away from me. And I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect this universe, no matter what. And that kind of sets her at odds with the people in the OG universe, who it's like, maybe her universe threatens the existence of our world. Like, they can't coexist together, and that creates overlap and everything like that. And that kind of is like, and Wanda's like, at the end of the day, why would I defend that world when the world that I created is, has everything that I want? So it's like, I'm tired of losing everything. I'm going to fight for this one. What do you think of that option? I guess option one.
I like that option, yes, because, again, not going too deep into the events, but the whole premise of WandaVision is she is in this world that is different from ours, where this tragedy that we're talking about hasn't exactly happened to her yet, or at all, or will happen. Like, this is her ideal world. Taking that away from someone who, again, has had thing after thing after thing taken away from her is a perfectly reasonable thing to think that she would then say, okay, I need to defend this. This is the last thing I'm holding on to. If you take this from me, I promise you I will turn into a villain. So don't do that.
I'm warning you. But what do you think? Do you think there's a different way for her to turn villainous that makes sense?
Yeah, kind of. So what I've seen so far from Wanda in her entire existence is she's a hero, but she loves some good revenge. When she joined Ultron in the first place because she blames Tony Stark for the death of her parents. She kills Ultron pretty menacingly because she feels her brother's death at the hands of Ultron. She attacks Thanos when she comes back and says, "You took everything from me." Those most powerful moments that we've seen of Wanda are when she is out for the person who did her wrong. So I think if you give sort of a catalyst, maybe not even taking the world away, but doing something to her, taking someone away, maybe taking Vision away again, maybe taking her kids away, something like that. If you put that sword, the organization, in that sort of spot of taking something away from her, we've already seen what she does to people in the moment when she's sort of feeling that rage. So I could see one instant making Sword the bad guy in her eyes, or maybe even in our eyes, where she sort of has to become this villain. And even though, Sword and the Avengers are supposed to be the good guys, they've done her wrong, and we can see why she would want some revenge.
I think that'd be interesting for sure, because I think that sets her up for a very fascinating trajectory overall. If we move past toward the future of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which we know Wanda is going to factor in heavily. When it was first announced that she would be a part of it, I mean, all the breakdowns and stuff were pretty convinced. They're going to team up and they're going to jaunt through the multiverse kind of together. There's kind of a synopsis going around there about a friend turning foe, returning type thing. And a lot of people are very quick, and most likely it could be the case that it's Baron Mordo, right? Because that just makes sense. Sure. Overall for Doctor Strange's story. But I like the narrative around it that this is actually Wanda's first turn to the dark side, kind of at the end. That Doctor Strange is going against Wanda to either protect the multiverse timeline or trying to bring Wanda back, and he ultimately fails. I mean, do you think Wanda could be the bad guy of a Doctor Strange movie?
I do, and I think it'd be sort of fun if they maybe like set us up and teased us a little bit with Mordo, kind of how they did in Captain America Civil War with Crossbones. You know, all the trailers, we sort of thought Crossbones was going to be a huge player, and then he gets taken out right at the beginning. I think it'd be cool if they were like, Mordo's this guy, he's going around, no more sorcerers. And then Wanda is like, hey, I'm going to stop you. And everyone's like, oh, Wanda stopped him. But then she's, instead of being like, yeah, I stopped, and she's sort of like, well, actually, I'm going to replace him. And no more sorcerers, no more heroes in general. Things are going to get crazy. So I could definitely see that sort of flip happening at the beginning.
I want the MCU to take a risk like that, right? I mean, because as much as I love Spider-Man Far From Home, it's like, for the fact that they played up Mysterio as a hero for so long and then didn't deliver any sort of twist, like any sort of like twist in the comics, because like everyone knew that he was going to be the villain of this movie, like going forward. So we had to spend half the movie thinking he was the hero, and then he was just the villain, and that was that. So I would love for them to do a sort of a twist like that, where Baron Mordo is suspected to be this one who turns bad, and Wanda stops him at the beginning, and then Wanda is going forward, the big bad, trying to either protect her own multiverse. I keep going back to that point that Wanda wants to protect her own multiverse. Do you think that's like the ultimate end, or like if they do something wrong to her multiverse and then she's trying to get revenge about that? Do you think that's the key to Wanda's evilness? I say with quotation marks.
I almost wonder if her multiverse or aspects of it are going to come back into our universe. Like in the comics, she does have kids, and the kids become real. They become part of our universe. Maybe Vision stays alive and she gets Vision back again, but it causes some sort of rift with our universe. So maybe like not necessarily defending her own universe, but the things she created in her universe becoming realities in our universe. And for some reason, the people in our universe are saying, nope, this doesn't belong. This defies laws of nature. We can't have this. So your thought process, I think, is right in the sense that she's defending something that is hers, that she holds dear, because she just can't take any more loss, like we've talked about.
Yeah, you're definitely right. That is a better way to phrase it, because I've always thought, I mean, we even had theories in the past about how the X-Men are going to be brought in to, and like how mutants are going to be involved in everything, and it's like supposed to be like a different universe type thing. And I think an interesting through line would be if Wanda is the one, we have like a reverse House of M type of thing, where instead of, you know, in the comics where she gets rid of all the mutants, I think it'd be fun if she kind of creates all the mutants in our world, in a sense, with her powers. And then if she does that, and like these are her beings, I mean, it's like she created them, she's responsible for them, and then our government is like, hey, or our side, and even the Avengers are like, hey, this isn't right, as you said, like breaks the laws of physics and time, and breaks, you know, everything in terms of even what Loki's dealing with the TVA type thing. Like all these entities are like, hey, this is wrong what you did, and Wanda's like, well, no, because it's like, I'm going to protect these people because I'm responsible for them, and if you want to come try to take them from me, good luck. Like, let's see what you got type thing. And I think that kind of creates a different type of villain, right? Someone who's not just out. I did keep using the word evil before, but I think evil is the wrong word, because she's just defending what she thinks is right. And I think at the end of the day, that's what creates the most interesting type of villain, especially for the Avengers to face.
I actually love that, because, you know, she could go evil, like there could be that evil turn, but she could also be a villain the same way. I keep coming back to this movie, one, because I love it, but two, because it has a lot of connections to other things. But Captain America Civil War, the same way Iron Man is technically a villain in that. Not because he's like out to do evil or out to do bad things, but because he believes what he believes, and he's on his side and Cap's on his side, and it creates conflict. So I actually like what you just pitched a lot, because it could lead into an Avengers versus X-Men sort of thing, where Wanda's like, hey, I created these people. I'm standing on their side, and if you guys want to stop that because it defies nature and physics and whatever, I'm gonna stop you. So you could create those two warring factions in a similar way that we got in Captain America Civil War, just on a much grander scale.
I think that would be a cool parallel, because then that basically could lead into a different type of an expansion of Civil War 2, right? As like two people are kind of on the sides of where this lies. And then that kind of puts Wanda in a very interesting upgrade from where she was, because even though she was the catalyst in the first Civil War, she wasn't really like a part of it, right? Like it was really between Captain America and Iron Man before. If you have this new type of warring factions between X-Men and the Avengers that causes the current Avengers to like, yeah, we should protect these X-Men, and then some of them are like, no, we should get them out of here. But that kind of puts Wanda, that vaults her up into like the leading place on one of those sides. And just on a story-wise perspective and a character perspective, I think that's fascinating, because I think that's a great upgrade from where she was.
Totally.
And just everything that we've been saying, I do like that more, because we are saying that, yes, Wanda can be the big bad of the MCU, but I think the way that we're presenting it is better than just making her straight up evil. Like her power corrupts her into then she's just bad, because I think that lacks a certain amount of pathos. Totally drives into that cliche of just, hysterical woman turning evil because she lost things. But it's like, if you give her a reason to want to fight for these things and present the audience with a way of just like, yeah, she's kind of right in a sense, she deserves to fight for this, then I think that creates a great dynamic going forward.
Yeah, totally. I agree, because you're right. We would lose a lot of the emotional attachment to Wanda if one day she just sort of decided, I'm bad now. And they've done such a good job building her up to being this character that we care about, to the point when she lands against Thanos in Endgame and says, you took everything from me. The audience feels that, and that's such an awesome moment, because he has, like, she's already lost so much. She finally loses the last thing she really cared about in Vision, to the point where how much loss can one person take? We've said it before, but turning her into this person that has to protect something else she's created that she now cares about again, because she knows what loss feels like. That is a much more relatable, quote-unquote, villain.
If we focus on the Avengers overall, I think this is a great way to take the MCU by putting the Avengers against a friend. Right? Because like we've seen before of Avengers face, like, except in Civil War, really, it's like you see our heroes face evil threats, like flat out evil, like Loki first in the invasion, he's evil, gotta stop him. Ultron wants to destroy the world, all right, stop him. Thanos in the first one, it's like kind of started to present that sort of, it's like, well, he's not wrong, like in a lot of ways, like you can see his way of thinking. And then in Endgame, I wasn't a fan of how they regressed his character and just like, okay, now I'm just going to destroy everything. I'm back to being a full on villain. I lose all my emotional stuff, which I know you can make the case. It's like it's a past Thanos and all that stuff. I was gonna say
they literally regressed him by about like 5 years.
Yeah, so it's like it makes sense. It's like I get that, but all the villains that they face are just evil villains who want to destroy the world. But by putting them against one of their own who knows them, who we've been around for so long, to see go from hero to type of villain would be amazing, because we as an audience would be like, oh man, do we want them to be defeated? Do we want Wanda to be defeated and for her to lose? Do we want her to win? Do we want her to come back to the side of good? It opens up these super fascinating story elements that I think is what the MCU kind of needs.
In terms of the difference between a hero and a villain, Thanos, Loki, Zemo, all these people could have been heroes had they made a different choice. They experienced tragedy, but they chose to do evil with it. And I think, to reiterate, it would be so interesting to see a person who has chosen the hero path, Wanda has chosen the hero path in the face of all this tragedy, finally reach their breaking point and say, the hero gig's not working for me. I gotta start looking out for number one, because when I don't do that, people I love die, things I love die, places I love turn into meteors and vaporize in the sky.
Right.
So now I need to try something different. I think that's something the MCU hasn't necessarily done yet that I think would be a really good route to take.
Agreed, because it's like, instead of introducing someone, just like a new threat, even like I understand the thrill of having like a Galactus or even something like that, or even just making Kang the Conqueror like a new overarching villain and stuff. But I just think story-wise, because we watch these movies because we love the characters as well as the action, right? And it's like, to see these characters actually grapple with the choice of having to deal with one of their own. It's what made Civil War one of the best movies in the MCU, and it is what will make phase, like at this phase 4 and even going into phase 5, if they can build Wanda up as the villain, like throughout the rest of WandaVision and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and then lead her into like a phase 5 as this ultimate force, leading into an ultimate battle at like either the end of phase 5, then that's going to be amazing because we have so much connection and investment in what's happening. So for all these reasons, I'm sorry, Wanda. I want you to turn into, I don't want to say villain, because I just want you to turn against the Avengers and do your own thing because you deserve it after all this.
Couldn't agree more.
All right, I think that about wraps up our discussion about Wanda as the next big bad of the MCU. What do you guys think? I totally think that she should be the next big bad, and after this conversation, I'm even more convinced. So I would like to thank Nick very much for being here today, and thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.